You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. This is your host. Guys, I sent out a post on Craigslist 14 years ago. So this is 2010. We are in the middle of the recession, right? I'm in Charleston area, and the recession really didn't set in until 2000, 2009, 2010, and it was bad at that point. I'm talking, I owed the IRS 15 grand. I owed Home Depot credit card $30,000. I had a tax lien on my house for not paying my property taxes. My company had lost $50,000 a year that year. I mean, I was really struggling. And I remembered making an offer on a quadplex in James Island. That's a kind of neighboring area of Charleston, James Island. I remember making an offer, and I looked in my email, and the date was 2010. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, that was a dark time for me. But I was out there hustling and trying to get it done. And when I'm searching my email, these Craigslist emails pop up, right? So if you ever posted anything on Craigslist, you get these Craigslist replies. And my post was, I'm looking for 4 investors for a quadplex to invest in James Island. And I got 4 responses. I think one of them was actually a real person. The rest were just like scammers or spammers trying to get my financial information. But I'm just thinking, I was putting it out there, right? I was trying to get started. I was trying to buy a quadplex, even though I was dead broke, didn't have any money, didn't have really anything going on. I was actually in negative net worth territory at the time. But it got me thinking, those that never get started, they never fail. Those that do start, they fail. But the failures that never quit eventually win. And those that win keep on winning. And so here I am trying to get started. So I've put out, I put out to Craigslist. I don't remember doing that, but obviously I did. I'm meeting with investors. I'm talking to people about this quadplex. And now, 14 years later, hindsight, that quadplex is probably worth over $1 million. That would have been a great investment had I gotten that baby closed. Real estate was pretty cheap in 2010 anyways, but I didn't get it done, right? Everybody told me no, I didn't have any experience, and it didn't work out, right? I would like to say, well, I closed that deal and now it's worth $1 million, $2 million, whatever. But I didn't. It never came through. In 2017, right, I looked up in my emails again. 7 years later, right? I went 7 years without really trying again. But I tried again. 24 units for $750,000. This was in upstate South Carolina. I think the town was called Trenton or something. And I put together a little pitch deck. I was trying to line up a bank. I was trying to line up some investors to help me with the down payment. And I started calling people. And I remember sitting down with a guy and him looking over the deal and saying, Jennings, it looks good and I like you and I believe in you, but you just don't have the experience and I can't do it. And I got that over and over and over again. Well, there's my another failure, right? Those that never start, never fail. Those that do start are going to fail, right? It's not always going to work out on the first try. But in 2018, I tried again. So I didn't wait as long this time. I tried again. I got 12 units under contract for $250,000. I went to a couple investors, hearing no. Finally, one of them said, well, maybe, why don't you come over and go over the deal with me? Come sit down and we'll have lunch and talk about it. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe? You might be interested? And I had pre-negotiated with the seller to do 70% seller financing. So I didn't have to go through the hoops of getting a bank loan. I just needed this guy to give me 90 grand and I could buy this deal. And we talked about the deal and he did it. He funded the down payment and we got the owner financing. We got it closed and we won. So 2010, I started trying. I took a 7-year hiatus. I tried again, failed. Then, there's obviously multiple other deals I looked at and offers in between there. But in 2018, I got a deal under contract. And going back to that little quote I talked, those that win keep on winning, right? I finally got that first win. I finally got that 12 unit under contract, money raised, closed, and that led me to get to a 19 unit under contract and closed. That led to a 42 unit getting under contract and closed. That led to a 63 unit, a $5 million deal getting under contract, capital raise, and closed. That led to an 80 unit, a 90 unit, a 208 unit, another 75 unit, 113 unit, a 500 self-storage facility portfolio, on and on and on to where I am today, 1,300 units and 500 self-storage units and $80 million worth of real estate bought in the last 5-6 years. The wins kept on stacking up after I figured out how to win. After I faced the test that the universe gave me and pushed back on my dream, pushed back on my goal, and said, okay, well, he's willing to fail, but he's willing to learn. And in hindsight, I didn't have a plan on that quadplex. I didn't have a compelling story. I didn't know how to raise capital. I said all the wrong things to the investors. There's a reason why that didn't happen. And I got a little better when I put that $750,000 one under contract. But once again, I wasn't ready. I didn't have the training. I didn't have the competency to get that baby over the line. But I got a little closer. I failed forward on that. So when I got to the 12 unit, $250,000, $90,000 down payment, I can get my arms around this, and boom, the dominoes fell. Finally, we burst through that ceiling, and after we close that 12 unit, the wins beget winning. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I was on Instagram Live the other day, and the guy asked me at the very end, well, what advice would you say to people, who are trying to get started and trying to get going that maybe don't have success yet? Like, what would you tell them to do? And my advice on that Instagram Live was you have to start, right? Because those that never start, they stay comfortable and they never fail. They don't experience that pain, at least not right now. Now, the scary thing is they will experience that pain. What's comfortable now is going to become very, very uncomfortable later. My lifestyle as a contractor, it was somewhat comfortable now. I'm making a living, I'm paying my bills, but I looked ahead about when I'm 50, 60, 70 years old. I'm going to have to keep working. I'm going to have very little saved. I'm going to have very little in equity and net worth. I'm going to have to keep on running crews, maybe even swinging the hammer. That's something that's going to become very painful and very uncomfortable. But in today's, the life cycle, the snapshot of today, it's a lot more comfortable not to try, because if you don't try and you don't get started, you're not going to fail. You're not going to have investors tell you no. You're not going to have brokers shut the door and hang up on you. You're not going to have banks laughing you out the door, right? And so it is extremely uncomfortable, and there is going to be failure ahead. But how you respond to that, how you pivot with that, how you continue to press forward until you break through that glass ceiling to closing that first deal, that's where you want to go, because those that never start never fail, but they also never get to win. And so my advice on this podcast was you got to get started, right? Lay out where you want to go, sure. But what are the things that you can do today, this week, this month, this hour? How can you push that goal and momentum forward? How can you start? How can you get started so that maybe you can get kicked in the teeth and you can learn? You can touch the hot stove and you can be like, well, I'm not going to touch that hot stove again. How can you do that so that you can get the market feedback as to what you're doing wrong so that you can do it right? Because if you can do it right, you're going to start to win. And when you start to win and you get that win, winning becomes easier. Winning becomes a habit. Winning becomes just something that you do over and over again because you've built that skill set. It's part of you now, and no one can take that away from you. And let me tell you, it is really, really fun to win. But so many people, they're not willing to start because they don't want to fail, and they probably will on the first or second or third attempt. But the ones that persist, they will get a win. And those wins will beget more wins. So guys, I'm going to keep this short and sweet for today. I appreciate you listening. If you're out there, drop me a follow, drop a review on the podcast, shoot me a message, whatever. I really appreciate it. I listen to, read, and respond to all of those. So I appreciate you being out there, and share this podcast. If it means something to you, I'm out here in the studio producing these every week. If you want to give back to me, then tell a friend. Share the podcast, share the story, say, hey, I like this message. This is going to encourage you today, and hopefully you can unlock your life. All right, guys, talk soon. Peace.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.